you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years,
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome to the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. And Pierre, before we get into anything, I just want to express my condolences to you, the TSN hockey family, and the friends and family of your good friend Dutch, who passed away from prostate cancer today. So just your thoughts on him, what it was like to work with him in this situation.
Well, it was a ton of fun to work with him, Jimmy, and thank you for your thoughts. I know everybody at TSN is really hurting today. TSN is an amazingly professional network with a lot of highly trained people and really passionate people about sports, and nobody personified that professionalism and passion more than Darren Dutchyshen. Whomever his partner was, it could have been Jennifer Hedger, who's an iconic sports broadcaster in Canada. It could have been James Duffy. It could have been me. There were so many different people that Darren worked with over time. Rod Smith, just an amazing, amazing man. The last time we spoke on the phone was probably 2 to 3 years ago. I'm going to say more like 2. I had been made aware that he wasn't doing very well. And we talked. It's the same illness that I had almost 7 years. It's 6 years now that I had surgery and was able to, battle through prostate cancer. But that's what eventually got to Dutch. It spread, the cancer. It spread in his body, which is unfortunate. That's the last time we talked. I'm not going to tell you what we talked about, but it was all fun and it was all great. And, he was an amazingly passionate person. He was really great with the staff that he worked with. And Jimmy, I would say this about Darren, probably more than anybody. He made political incorrectness fun.
Yeah.
He didn't make it personal. He didn't make it nasty. He made you laugh.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of shows together. We did a lot of studio shows together. We did a lot of games together, and some were NHL games, some were, Olympic games, some were, regional games for Canadian hockey. I remember we went to Truro, Nova Scotia once. We were doing games from Truro, which is just outside of Halifax, not far. So, I'm nostalgic today. I'm full of melancholy. I feel terrible for his family, his 3 children, Paige, Tyler, and Brett. Tyler, by the way, was a real good hockey player, played in Sault Ste. Marie.
Okay.
Some guys who were on his team, Jeff Carter, who's, just retired from the National Hockey League, and Trevor Daley, who was a Stanley Cup winner, in Dallas or in Pittsburgh, excuse me. And I know that Tyler and Trevor Daley were buddies. Darren used to tell me about that a lot. So, hey, listen, it's a tough day for the Dutchyshen family, and it's a tough day for the TSN family. And Jimmy, more than anything, I think it's a tough day for people that care about sports in Canada, because he was really an iconic broadcaster. He really was. Yeah,
well, you mentioned how he could make not being politically correct funny still. Well, let's go to this moment you and him had at the 2008 NHL trade deadline. A classic that's going everywhere right now, Pierre. It's all over social media because it was such a fun moment between the two of you.
Kilger's another big name. It wouldn't surprise me if Chad Kilger were traded potentially to the Western Conference to a contending team because of the fact, again, that he's a big body that can skate.
Hey, you mentioned Darren Pang. You could stack him on top of himself, and he still not be big enough than Hal Gill. But he had mentioned Hal Gill's a defenseman with a long stick. Is this a guy that's going to be traded, though?
You're an announcer with a long stick from time to time.
Yeah, big mouth, I guess.
I don't know.
You don't know about Hal Gill?
No, I think Hal Gill will eventually be moved out of Toronto as well. But the asking price for Hal Gill is probably a little bit higher than people think because he's got that long stick, as you like to talk about, and also he's a good penalty killer.
We had so much fun together, and we used to laugh at each other all the time. And, I would say this, if you haven't watched before, watch some of the Sports Center broadcasts with Dutchyshen and Duffy. They were phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then watch the broadcast with Jennifer Hedger and Darren. They were amazingly good. They were just so darn good, Jimmy. And we had fun together, and you're supposed to have fun. And it was great.
If you're not having fun, you're doing something wrong, and you're in the wrong job. I mean, that's
the biggest, like I said, Darren never hurt anybody with his comments. He
No.
never made it personal, and you could ask. We did this show. Keith Pelly, who runs the Maple Leafs now, and all of Toronto Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, and Mark Milliere, who's an iconic Canadian figure when it comes to putting TV shows together on the sports side. He's no longer at TSN. But Mark and Keith came up with a concept called NHL Tonight on TSN 2. And it was Darren and I in a studio. And all the people that cut the tape. It was a really labor-intensive show. And it was supposed to be end of the night, hard-hitting, highlights, analysis, funny stories, all that stuff. And all the young people that worked on the show, men and women, they were priceless because Dutch would always have them on their toes. And they, at the beginning, they didn't know whether he was joking or he was serious. And I had to tell them, no, he does the same stuff to me. So don't worry. He's not being mean to you. He's actually, if he does that to you, he really likes you.
Yeah.
And by the end of that, everybody was just, they loved Darren. They really did. They loved him.
That's great. I mean, well, it's a sad day indeed. And he will be missed for sure, Pierre. And I'm sure there's tons of stories that are going around about him right now. We'll hear more. And I know that TSN is going to do a really beautiful tribute to him at 6 p.m. Eastern tonight. So I urge anyone who has access to watch that to watch it as well. And, you were talking just one more thing too, Pierre, about how he wouldn't make it personal when he was politically incorrect. That's what we need today. I know you're not on social media, but for those that are, I think they can agree with me that you have the one side who is politically correct and the other side who's the opposite. And they just throw insults at each other nonstop. And there's just so much tit for tat. And it's like, just meet halfway. It is what it is. We're all allowed to have our opinion and just have fun with it. And he apparently, from everything you tell me and everything I've read today, he apparently was one of the best at doing that.
He was so good at that. I'm going to tell you, he grew up in Porcupine Plain, Saskatchewan. So, Barry Melrose is from there. Joey Koser's from there. Wendell Clark is from there. Like, this is a rough neighborhood.
Yeah.
And Dutch used to tell me all these stories about how tough they all were as kids growing up in the schoolyard. And I'd be like, yeah, sure, Dutch. Now, you had to know Darren. And if you got on the wrong side of him in terms of saying, hey, you weren't that tough, he'd show you. He'd show you how tough he was.
Yep.
And he loved the weight room. Like,
I was just going to say, he apparently realized, hey, I got to be tough, so I'm going to get jacked. I mean, dude, he could be a linebacker, Pierre. He could have played for the Patriots.
Interesting you'd say that. His passion, he loved the CFL. And we would have these amazing debates because he liked the western part of the CFL. And I was a kid that grew up going to the Autostade in Montreal that doesn't exist anymore, and Percival Molson Stadium where the Alouettes play now.
Yeah.
So those were the two stadiums I grew up going to watch my team, the Alouettes, who always happened to win back in those days, just like the Montreal Canadiens. And so I would always have that. I said to him, Dutch, I remember once when I was a kid, I was really young. I was like 6 or 7. I went to the Autostade. You might have been 2 years old, Dutch. I said to him, and I watched George Reed running as a fullback for the Saskatchewan Roughriders playing against Russ Jackson and the Ottawa Roughriders. It's the only pro league in the world that had two teams that had the same name, Saskatchewan Roughriders and the Ottawa Roughriders. And I said, you know what happened in that game, Dutch? He goes, no, what happened? I said, the guys from the East beat the guys from the West, so you need to sit down now. Go to the corner. And he was so angry. He was upset about it. Oh, he was great. Then he'd laugh, and then he'd come back with another retort. He was just so good. He was great.
Good stuff. And I actually heard a clip today. It sounded like he was a big Giants fan.
He loved football.
Yeah, which was your team. So you guys had a little something in common.
We used to talk about the good Giants teams, not the bad Giants teams.
Good stuff. Well, you know what? Speaking of not being politically correct, but saying really what everybody knows and saying the truth, Pierre, I texted you about an hour ago, told you about what Brad Marchand said after practice today. And by the way, it looks like he could play tomorrow in Game 6. We'll find out tomorrow for sure. But, everyone, this is the first time he's spoken since he was injured from the Sam Bennett hit / sucker punch. And, I don't I get his history, and I get how other teams' fans can hate him. And, he's definitely that guy. You love him on your team. You hate him when he's not on your team. I get that. Totally understand it. But you have to admit, the guy has matured in the way he speaks to the media and the way he tells it like it is. And man, did he tell it like it is when it comes to what the playoffs is today. So I want to go to a clip right now. He was talking at practice today, and play this for our listeners. And then we're going to get Mark Spector on of Sportsnet. We're going to talk about Canucks and Oilers and talk about another guy who tells it like it is, and Rick Talk. But let's go to Brad Marchand right now after practice today.
Was it cheap shot?
I think that it was, he plays hard. You know, he's an extremely physical player, great player for the group. I think he got away with a shot, but, you know, I'm not going to complain. Shit happens, and, you know, that's part of, especially playoff hockey. You know, I've been on the other side of a lot of plays, and, you know, I think he got away with one, but, I mean, that's part of the game, and definitely part of playoff hockey. You know, yeah, it sucks to be on the other side of it, but you know, that stuff happens. You know, so I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. That's part of the game. But yeah, I think he got away with one, but it is what it is.
Is it too late in the game, too important to be thinking about any kind of revenge or kind of paying it back?
I mean, that's part of the game. You know, it's part of the playoffs. You know, people don't want to say it, but part of playoffs is trying to hurt every player on the other team. And the more guys you take out, the more advantage your team has. And, you know, people don't say that, but that's just a fact of the game. And you know, so every time you step on the ice, someone's trying to hurt someone. And you know, that's just how it goes in playoffs. And any time you can get an advantage on a team, it's going to help your team win. And, you know, that's part of the benefit of having a physical group, and that's why you see teams go the distance with big D-core and physical teams, and it's why you rarely see teams that are small and skilled go far, because, you know, they get hurt.
Hey, you want to tell everyone can see Brad?
I mean, he couldn't have said it better, Pierre. It's the truth. It is what it is, like you said.
It shows you the importance of maturation and mentorship. He wouldn't have said that 10 years ago.
No.
He would not have. So Zdeno Chara, Mark Recchi, Patrice Bergeron, I got to think Cam Neely. There's a lot of people, I think. Pardon me?
Claude Julien.
There are a lot of people that helped him along the way, and I think he's the beneficiary of unbelievable mentorship. I really believe that. For
sure. And you know what he's saying about, you know, the object is to hurt your opponent. Look, last week, and I didn't say this last week, but I should get it off my chest here. I want to apologize for a tweet I made saying that the Bruins, you know, if they want to get back in this series, they need to make Matthew Tkachuk feel pain. First of all, it's not my place to say that, and I also worded it wrong. I wish I had worded it, if I am going to say it, as Brad Marchand did today, because he worded it perfectly, and that's what I was trying to get at. This is the playoffs. It's not, you know, ballet. It's they're out there to hurt the opponent and to beat them down, to wear them down should be the word, Pierre, and make them fear going out there again for their next shift and get that mental and physical edge on them. And no one's saying you should go out and end a guy's career or really hurt him, injure him seriously. But if you can get that extra hit, if you can make them look over their shoulder and know that something's coming and cough the puck up, then you're doing your job.
It's amazing how people speak in buzz phrases. You hear the term finish your check. Mm-hmm. You hear the term plant a seed of doubt. You hear the term get to the net. Create chaos. That's a team slogan, create chaos. What do you think all those terms mean?
Exactly. It's madness. That's what you want out there, and that's how you win. And you love what he said too, Pierre, and I hope a lot of GMs that are looking to win a Stanley Cup and construct a Stanley Cup roster listen to this when he said, look at the teams that are winning the Cups. They've got huge defensemen, and they play physical. And he's right. Look at all the teams that have been winning Cups lately. Look at the Vegas Golden Knights, the perfect example. Their blue line they had last year. They don't win that Cup if they don't have that blue line of, what did you call them, Pierre? The forest or something? You had a great nickname.
The big green trees.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they are, and that's why they win. So
if you look, let's just look at the teams. Okay, St. Louis. You think their defense was small when they won?
Nope.
No. How about Tampa? You think their defense was small when they won?
Nope.
No. So Vegas, no. So eventually, and I do think it's coming back. I can't wait to hear what Mark Spector thinks because he's in the middle of a firestorm out there out west between Edmonton and Vancouver. You talk about, bad behavior, not from Mark, by the way, but by the people that are watching the games.
Oh my
gosh, it's unbelievable.
It's festival right now.
But what I would say is that I think the day of the smaller, nifty, guy that struts around and buzzes around, those days you're not going to have 3 or 4 of those on a team anymore. That ship sailed. That's done. People are seeing it. Management people are like, you can't win with that. You have no chance.
Well, I mean, even when we had Jeff Gorton on, Pierre, earlier in the season about the Montreal Canadiens, he's talking about the future, and he hinted at it, and now he's confirmed it that they are going to go out and search for big wingers that can score, but they want size. They know they got to get bigger.
Yeah, they have 2 guys that are dynamic players that are small. One is Cole Caulfield, one is Lane Hudson. That's it. They're not adding any more small guys. There'll be no more small people there. Nope.
Yeah.
No more.
So they're gonna build and orchestrate their roster that way as well. All right, Pierre, let's quickly. I don't know if we have spec. We do. We'll get back. I want to talk about Dallas and Colorado after we talk to Mark Spector. But let's go to the series we got going on tonight, Pierre, and what a game it's going to be. Game 5 in Vancouver, and there he is, Mark Spector. Is that an Arizona State hat? A little Sun Devils? You picked that up at Mullet Arena or what?
I picked it up just outside Mullet Arena, boys.
There we go. I like it, my friend. Up and coming hockey program.
Sure. Well, it's probably the last time I'll ever be at that arena in my life, but I enjoyed it while I was there.
Well, that's good stuff. Spec, how you doing, my friend? How's things?
Doing great. Chased the series around just like you guys. Enjoying every minute of it. It's getting ugly out here some nights. And 2-2. We haven't had an elimination game yet. We won't till Saturday in this series.
Yeah, it's been a heck of a series. Spec, I want to – go ahead, Pierre.
No, I was just going to ask Mark, who's going to – I know who the goalie's going to be, but are you surprised at how all the goalie stuff has played out, especially on the Edmonton side, Mark?
Yeah, everyone's surprised. Not having Demko was supposed to be a big advantage for Edmonton, and Sheilov has been fantastic. The one of the games he won, the Oilers outshot Vancouver 45-18, and Sheilov won it for him. So it hasn't hurt. I don't think Demko could play or will have played any better than Sheilov is playing. And in Edmonton's side, Skinner wasn't good enough, and Pickard comes in, and frankly, he only saw 21 shots the other night. And he stopped both the goals that went past him were deflected goals. He stopped everything he could stop, and so yes, the goaltending's good. It's just being done by different guys. That's all.
He's right.
You've covered plenty of Oilers Flames series over the years. You cover a lot of their regular season games as well. We all know the storied rivalry between them, but I don't think a lot of people understand how much Edmonton and Vancouver hate each other, and we're seeing that come to the surface right now in this series. Just talk about I don't know if you call it budding because I think it was already there, but talk about the growth of the rivalry, I guess would be the word that you're seeing right now in this series.
Yeah, these franchises have never been good at the same time, right? They've never been good at the same time.
True.
When Edmonton, in the glory years, Vancouver was the Oilers' doormat. And from about 2005 to 11, when the Bruins beat the Canucks in the final, Edmonton wasn't any good at all. The Sedins used to come through Edmonton, put in 20 minutes of work, and beat them for fun. So this is, in all these years, this is really the first time they've both been pretty good at the same time, and here we are in an excellent series. I guess what I'd say to you guys, there isn't a huge rivalry between the players at this point, but there sure is between the fan bases, and I guess it'll have to grow from there.
Yeah,
is it the most vitriol you've ever seen, Mark, between fan bases? Because I don't think I've ever seen anything like this.
Yeah, I took Twitter off my browser for Game 4, and I've not enjoyed another game more than that the whole series. So
good on you, man. I gotta try that for once. It can get bad out there. It's been heating up with Florida and Boston too. But other things. What else has kind of surprised you about this series? Whether it's a player, whether it's been a style of play that one team's taken. What's something that stood out a little to you that maybe we're not seeing at home?
Well, something you're not seeing. what would I say? I mean, the biggest concern in this thing is the Edmonton needs more from their depth guys. They're getting nothing from their bottom six. Vancouver needs more from a couple of their big guys, namely Elias Pettersson. He's not supposed to be a bottom six player, and you're not supposed to be asking him for more. He's supposed to be delivering. So those are sort of everyone has played this series, and they're missing some guys that they want production from. They're just different guys on different teams. I think I'll say to you that whoever gets the rest of their roster to chip in faster here and get moving is the team that's going to win this series. Edmonton, those guys have names like Ryan McLeod and Fogle and Corey Perry. And, in Vancouver, it starts with Pettersson, and then it goes to guys like Höglander, and it's more skill guys. It's more gritty guys in Edmonton. It's more skill guys in Vancouver. Everybody's tapping their foot, waiting for some help. Whoever gets it first is probably going to win.
I was really surprised in Game 4, Mark, with JT Miller's game. I did not like his game at all. I thought he was really on the outside. He was not a typical JT Miller kind of a player. Have you heard much talk about him around the series? Is there potential for injury, or what do you think's going wrong with JT?
No, it's funny. I guess I'd say to you, Pierre, even good players have a bad game. He apparently phoned or texted Rick Tocchet and apologized for his Game 4. So I'm very safe in predicting JT Miller will be back to being the horse he's been tonight. He's their best player in Vancouver.
I agree with you.
Their second best player has probably been Lindholm or maybe Besser. But, and they're bigger guys. Like, one of the issues Vancouver has is a lot of their depth guys are small players, smaller European guys that when the playoffs get ugly, they haven't figured out how to play them yet. I'm not saying they can't, and I'm not saying there's not European guys who are really good at this stuff, because there's lots of them.
Oh, yeah.
But Vancouver has a group of them that are still, this team hasn't played any playoff games, guys. Like this is the first playoff run for this group. Their previous playoff experience came in the bubble, and I'm here to tell you, I covered that bubble. That bubble does not resemble playoff hockey in any way, shape, or form. That is not playoff experience in the bubble. They weren't playoff games. So it's a trial maiden run for guys like Pettersson and Besser, and some of them are good at it, and some of them are trying to figure it out still.
So, Jimmy, I'm just going to take what Mark just said. He's so spot on, because I broadcast every single game from that Edmonton bubble, and he was there, and I saw Mark there. And I'll just tell you, there was one guy that was ready to play playoff hockey in that entire bubble, and that was Nathan McKinnon. Everybody else was in a different game. He was the most intense, right, Mark? He was crazy intense. He was the only guy, though, that I could say that was like that. Mark just nailed it, because that's the last time. Travis Green was coaching. Nolan Baumgartner was one of the assistant coaches. Noel Brown was the other one. And I'm just telling you right now, that's the last playoff experience Vancouver had, and that was not playoff experience. I completely agree with that. It's a great point, Mark.
So many new guys since, too. I mean, it's like Spec just said, there's so many new guys since, too. Guys, I wonder, too, I remember having this conversation with you, Pierre, about Pettersson, right, in the first round. And you kept cautioning me, saying, just remember, this is his first experience. He's still learning on the fly here with what playoff hockey is all about. But it seems maybe as if now Rick Tocchet has kind of said, okay, that grace period's over. I need you to step up. So I want to play this quote from after the Game 4 the other night from Rick Tocchet.
It's a will to get the puck. It's not X's and O's. It's a will. There's times there we have some guys, the puck where it's going to go. You just got to get there before the other guy. And I think we're pausing. Some guys are playing pause hockey, and you can't win if you have 5 or 6 passengers or 7. I don't know how many it was. We'll take a look, but there's at least a half a dozen just passengers tonight. Quite frankly, that's what it was. But saying that's playoff hockey, where the next game's a new game. So some of those guys can be a hero for us. So they got to step it up.
Now, Pierre and I both agreed, Spec. Perfect timing for that, I thought. But clearly, Pettersson is one of those guys.
Oh, man. There's a really interesting dynamic out here. As a guy that's, I don't work this market all the time. I'm just dipping into it and watching from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Rick Tocchet, right? For those of us, any of our younger listeners who don't know, Rick Tocchet he was better than Wendell Clark, okay? He was Jerome McGinley before Jerome McGinley was Jerome McGinley. He fought, He scored. He played hard. He was the consummate, ultimate playoff player. A Canadian kid from Scarborough, like no one did it better than Rick Talk in the playoffs. Okay, he's getting from his general manager a lot of guys who aren't like him. You know, he's trying to pull a 180-pound Swedish kid in Pettersson into the fight here, and they're not the same person. Like they're different people. And Talkett's trying to get Pettersson to have just slightly resemble him, and he's trying to get Höglander to do that, and he's trying to get guys like McGuire to do that, and Nils Aman to do that, and the defenseman Philip Hronek, right? Yeah. A good regular season player who hasn't arrived here in the playoffs. So Talkett knows where the finish line is. He's got to figure out the roadmap to get these guys there. And it's a real push and pull in this town right now, boys.
You know what Mark just said about Rick. I coached Rick in '92 when we won the cup. Even though he had a broken jaw, he was such a critically important part of our team because he held guys accountable. And he had just come from Philadelphia. I mean, you're so right on, Mark. You're having a hell of a day. I'm going to Vegas with you soon. I'm telling you, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I hope you're at the draft, Mark. We'll be out there. We're looking forward to seeing you there. Back to the side that you know more, and that's the Edmonton side there. What's been your take on Knobloch so far and his first Stanley Cup playoff experience as a head coach?
You know what he is? One of the things he is, guys, he's smart enough to know what he doesn't know. I thought the move with Pickard, the move from Pickard was born a year ago. A year ago, the Oilers were in a second-round series with Vegas. Skinner was wearing down, and they never went to Jack Campbell. And Knobloch didn't even work for the Oilers then. But they never went to Jack Campbell. And this year, we're watching Skinner, and he's wearing down. And his coaching staff underneath him said, you know what? We made the wrong call last year. We should give Pickard a shot. And they did, and it was smart. Yeah. So a coach that's humble enough to know what he doesn't know, I like that coach already. I'm telling you that he's a guy that when he pushes the buttons, you know, last game, his bottom two defensive pairs, he swapped them around, moved the guys around. They've been playing together all year. That team allowed 21 shots and barely any scoring chances in game 4. So, you know what? I'm not a guy, guys. I've never been a guy who says this guy got out coached or this guy should do this with his lines. I judge coaches on hindsight, on history. Did your decision work? Was your lineup the right lineup? So far, the buttons this guy's been pushing all year have been the right buttons. In hindsight, he looks like a great coach. Let's see how long he can keep that going. But he's a good coach. He's a smart guy. He's a humble guy. I'll take him.
I agree with you. One of the other things that I really like what's going on there, Mark, is the development of a lot of the defensemen. Not all the defensemen, but a lot of the defensemen have gotten better with Paul Coffey working there. Evan Bouchard, obviously offensively has taken it to another level.
Well, you know, we have a discussion. You guys probably have had this too. You're having a press meal with some guys, and you say, how many number one defensemen are there in the league? Like true number ones, right? Like Quinn Hughes is a number one. You know, Darnell Nurse isn't. Hedman's the number one. Morgan Riley isn't, right? And I think there's we get to about 15 guys and then we start running out. You know, Pietrangelo is one for sure, but geez, is that other guy. So I'm going to tell you, Evan Bouchard's never been on that list for me, but I'm watching him play now. Offensively, he's the number one defensive. Now he's starting to figure it out defensively. And you know what? The kid's like 6'2", almost 6'3". He's got good size. He's starting to play some defense for me here, gentlemen. And he's got the hardest shot in the league, most consistently, over 90 miles an hour. Yeah. He runs the best power play in the league from up top. He's a fantastic passer and a good skater. I'm here to tell you that we're pretty soon to having that discussion and listing off our number one defensemen, our true number ones here. Yeah. And I think Evan Bouchard is about to become one of them, guys. What do you think?
That's really well said. I love what he just said. Yeah. And you know what, Mark? I've seen this development since Paul got there, because before Paul got there, I didn't see that. I just didn't see it.
Me neither.
He's done a good job. Pierre, a guy you mentioned the other night too, and I thought the other day too, to give credit to, and I thought it was great, was Holloway. Yeah. And, you know, they, like you're talking about, you need your depth guys up front. You need your depth guys on the defense too. Spec, what's it been like watching him kind of developed, not just overall, but in this series, it seems he's gotten better each game.
We're talking about Dylan Holloway here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. You want more. He's big. He's fast. He's really, really gotten smarter. Like, for me, guys, young players show up with the tools. They got the tools. The tool they got to figure out. I'm going to pan back. I'm touching my head here. When you get to these games, I can't afford a young guy who gives the wrong puck away at the wrong time. It's too important now. It's too important. So I'm going to give him credit. He's making the smart play. His numbers aren't there, right? His numbers aren't there. He's not scoring goals for you yet, but he's smart enough that the coach can trust him to put him in the situation where the big goal is going to come. You're never going to score that big goal from the press box, and you're not going to score from Bakersfield. You got to get the coach's trust. You got to get in the lineup. You got to get up the lineup and play with the right guys. And he's playing with Leon Draisaitl and Evander Kane tonight. He's in the spot now, gentlemen, where we might be talking about him after a big game. A year ago, 2 months ago, he didn't deserve that spot even to be in. He's in it now. It'll be interesting to see what he does with it.
I agree. Again.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, Spec, thanks a lot for taking the time. We know you're a busy man. Enjoy the game tonight, and we will continue to watch your coverage from there, and we'll get you on down the line, all right?
Thanks, Mark.
All right, boys, I'm going to find the Wink and Judge bar, Murph. I'm going to have one for you and another one for me and maybe one more for Pierre.
I want you to go to Joe Fortes for me and have about 24 oysters before you go to the game. Go to Joe Fortes for me.
You know, boys, thanks for having me.
Thanks.
All right, good stuff. Spec joined us here from Sportsnet. He does a great job and covering the Oilers, and he's doing a great job covering that series, Pierre.
He's not afraid to tell the truth.
No, he's not. And I know he's got enemies. I understand some players that rubs them the wrong way, but I don't get it. Like, a lot of people think that he's, I see all sorts of names from him, but all I'm trying to say is he asks questions. When he asks questions, he's being fair. He's being blunt. He's not attacking a player. He's not calling them names. He's not saying, "Oh, you sucked" or anything like that. It goes back to what we started the podcast with about Dutch. He's just throwing it like it is. That's all.
I'm just going to tell you right now, back in the day, Edmonton was a hot spot for hockey. When they had Gretzky and they had Messi and they had Curry and they had Coffey and they had Fuhr and they had Moog, it was a hot spot, okay? I'm just telling you. And when you went in there with your team and they weren't playing, let's say Edmonton wasn't playing well for whatever reason, some people should look at some of those columns that were written back in the day. We'd sit around at the breakfast room at the Hotel McDonald there in Edmonton, and we'd be reading the newspaper like, "We're glad we're not here. Glad we're not playing here. This is pretty rough." Oh, my goodness. And I don't want to say who the columnists were because they're all still living. And I'll tell you one thing, they were really professional guys. They were hardworking, industrious, professional guys, but they had a bite to them. If they think Spec is tough, tell them to go read some of those columns from the late 80s, early 90s.
How do you think some of these
after Gretzky left and after the 90 Stanley Cup where that team just cratered and they cratered, go read some of those columns. They're rough, man.
I know. I mean, how do you think some of the kids today would have handled Red Fisher, Pierre?
No. But I'll tell you one thing. We talk about the importance of old age and learning from veteran people.
I'm so glad you said
Some of the best plane rides I ever had when I wasn't coaching and I was working in the media were on the Canadians planes, and I got to sit near Red a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Whether we were going commercial or private, it didn't matter. I got to sit next to Red a lot. And the intel he would tell you from the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. From the Canadian, he traveled with them all the time. That's just how it was. And you learn so much about management decisions and coaching decisions and player decisions and different places in the league. No, Red was tough. It was tough.
Pierre, the first game I ever covered in Montreal, Bruins Canadians, Game 6, 2002. I'll never forget it. And after the game, I'm sitting there. And I just happened, I don't know how I ended up, but I was next to Red in the press box. So I went downstairs.
No, you're a rookie. He wouldn't talk to you.
So wait, this was interesting. So I get back, I go downstairs and I get back up and there he is. And I sit down next to him and I see him. He's He's drinking. He's having a drink.
Shivas on the rocks.
And then I see a couple other reporters are having beers, and I'm like, well, that's cool. I go, and so I don't know. I'm just a stupid rookie, aloof. And I say to Red, I go, hey, where do we get the beer? And he goes, there's a keg downstairs, and go get me a better cup than this too. And so I go downstairs and I get him an actual glass from the counter there in the media room. And I come back up and we sit there, and I don't know what to say. I'm shaking in my boots. I'm like, this is Red Fisher. And so I'm not. And so he says, so who the hell are you? I'm Jimmy Murphy from Boston. He goes, well, I figured you from Boston, but who are you? And so I tell him what I do, and he goes, you know, Russ Conway? And I said, yeah. Learn from him down there. And he goes, good. That's a guy you should listen to. So then he just starts talking to me, Pierre, and I'm just soaking it in. I'm not saying, unless I'm asked a question, I know. I'm like, unless he asks me something, I'm not saying anything. So I sat there and I just listened to him talk about the game. And he said, so what do you learn? What'd you learn? And I told him what I thought about what he said. And he said, good, I'll talk to you next time. And that was it. And it was one of the best moments of my journalistic career. I'm like, wow, I thought this guy would have just kicked me to the curb. And I just sat there and listened to him. And he actually liked what I had to say back. And I was like, wow, my dad will be proud. It was a great moment.
That's a good story.
Because you're right. He never talks to rookies.
No, never talked to rookies. And I witnessed it. I saw it. But I remember with him, he was so funny. I'm going to say it was a 91 final. It might have been 92, but he was there. And they used to have a Stanley Cup luncheon before the final started. Whoever was the home team. And so he would sit next to Scotty because he knew him so well from Montreal, obviously. And I was at the same table with Scotty, and Red was there, and he would talk to everybody else at the table. He didn't talk to me. He didn't say a word to me, so I didn't say much. And I was down working on tapes after the luncheon, and he went in to Scotty's office, and they were talking. I said to Scotty, what an ass he is. He's such an ass. He didn't even say hello to me. And he goes, you're a rookie. He doesn't talk to rookies. Scotty must have said something to him, because then Red comes up to me and says, hey, I heard you delivered the Montreal Star. I said, I did deliver the Montreal Star. He goes, I wrote for that paper. I said, yeah, I know you wrote for that paper. Oh. Then the big thing in those days, when he left the Star to go to the Montreal Gazette, like, that was a big deal.
Oh, I bet.
That was like a big
That's
big
like a
deal.
huge trade in
And so, yeah. It was like, I remember when George Balkin, who was a legendary radio voice, went from CJAD just for a short time, but he went to CFCF. Oh my gosh, it was like the end of the world in Montreal. Like the world had collapsed. And then he went back to CJD, but it was the same when Red did. But Red didn't talk to rookies.
I knew that too. It was one of those moments where I knew I'm best to just shut up and be a fly on the wall right now. And that's what I did. And I'm glad I did, because after that, he did always take the time to talk to me. You know, he sat with me a couple times to eat in the media room there. So he was a treasure for sure. All right, before we get to our comments and questions, I just want to talk about last night, because I heard you talk on Mitch Melnick's show before the game, Dallas and Colorado, and you nailed it. You said Colorado has to play like the Bruins did in Florida, and their big guys have to show up, and that's exactly what happened, Pierre.
Yeah, no, they did. I give them a lot of credit. Jared Bednar had his guys ready to play. It's not that Pete didn't. Pete DeBoer had his team ready to play. McGuire went to another – you would agree, I think. McGuire went to another level last night. There was nobody that could play with him on that ice surface last night. So that's a big deal for Colorado going back home. If they can take advantage of home ice, then you're probably looking at a Game 7, obviously. McKinnon, when he needed to, elevated, which was really important. And not every team's going to be perfect. Everybody's wondering about the Rangers right now, Jimmy. I had a lot of friends, former teammates of mine from the New York area. Now they live and work there, and they're saying, what's wrong with the Rangers? I said, well, not much. Well, they lost the last 2 games. I said, yeah, they won 7 in a row or 5 in a row before that, like 6 in a row, whatever it was. Like, this is pro hockey. You don't just run the table.
Yeah.
And I think people just forget that.
Yeah. We get ahead of ourselves. We definitely do. I
remember last week, I told you, Jimmy, there's going to be a peak and there's going to be a valley in every playoff series.
Yep.
So you just got to, whoever handles that the best usually does the best.
You're going to win. And by the way, too, I want to credit Jonathan Drouin. Great return for him.
Yep.
He was solid last night, and happy to see that for him. Looking ahead to tonight, you just brought up the Rangers and Hurricanes, Pierre. If you're Laviolette right now, what are you telling the boys to close this out? Because clearly, look, and I understand, as we were just saying, momentum can change so fast, and it doesn't necessarily always go game to game. But when you have a 3-0 series lead and you give up 2 straight games like that, it can sit in your head a bit. It can linger. What do you tell the boys if you're going in right now?
Take the crowd out of the game early. And the way you do that is you cycle, you engage in the offensive zone more than in your zone. Don't let your goalie have to make more than 25 saves. Keep the puck in their end. Make their goalie make 30 or more saves. Let's dominate the cycle. Let's dominate the face-off circle. Let's play more 5-on-5. Let's not give them any chances so their crowd can get anxious and excited. Let's make their crowd full of trepidation. Make them sit on their hands. Make them nervous. Make them feel uncomfortable. Not just the players, make their crowd. Because, Jimmy, the one thing we both agree on here, and we agree on a lot, but this one thing I know we agree on, Carolina's crowd can make a difference in a game from half a goal to a goal for the home team if they're in it. And the only time they're in it is when they're running and gunning.
Yep.
Well, if you keep it in their zone, in the Carolina zone, they can't run and gun. They got to defend. Yeah. And that's one of the things I'd really stress is the importance of the cycle game.
I mean, Montreal fans are going to think this is taboo that I'm saying this, but, over my years of covering games in different arenas all around the league, Pierre, 2 arenas stood out to me where I really felt like the crowd was literally willing the team to victory and playing a role and getting in the head of the opponent. And that's the Bell Center and that's Carolina. And they really do a great job.
One more,
in Chicago in its heyday for sure. The United States.
I'm just going to say, don't forget Chicago. From 2010 to 2015, don't forget Chicago. That was a madhouse. They used to call it the Madhouse on Madison.
There was a reason.
That was in the old days at the old stadium, and it really was. Jimmy, I'll never forget coaching games there, going in there, running practices. It was crazy. It was unbelievable. But I would say that, all the Stanley Cup finals I did there, did a lot of finals there, 3 finals there. That was a tough, that crowd was good.
Yep.
That Chicago crowd was really good. Joe Louis, and when Detroit had it going on, Joe Louis was.
Joe was something, I bet. I never got to cover a game there. It's one of the biggest.
The only problem with the Joe was the concessions were good, but the seats were they were always crooked or broken. It was just.
How the old Boston Garden was.
The worst rink in the league to go to a morning skate. I can't even imagine being a fan buying a ticket. And they'd get 20,000 people a night, but the seats were crooked and but the passion of the fan base was awesome. That was a hard building. It was a really hard building.
It was good stuff. I wish I would have made it there, but I was lucky to grow up going to the old Boston Garden, which, as you know, was another tough place to play.
That was special. That was special. I mean, got a chance to be involved in 2 Eastern Conference finals there and coach a college championship game there. Pretty special memories. That was an awesome building. That was a hockey building. That was such a hockey building.
Yeah, it was. It was totally built for hockey. Totally was. Though the Celtics did pretty well in it too.
There's some dead spots in the floor when they were bouncing the visitor team basketball.
And you know what Red used to do, right, with the Lakers dressing room in June when they had no air conditioning in the old Garden.
Oh, trust me, we lived it. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if they did this for the hockey teams too, but Red's famous for always. He would put heaters in the visiting dressing room before they got there, and then they remove them just in time so they know. And so it would be extra hot in there, and the players would be like pouring sweat. Kareem's on the oxygen there. I mean, he didn't mess around. He knew how to work that building.
So now I'm going to tell you what the hockey guys did. So we were playing there in 92. We played there in 91 and won, but we were playing in 92, and we were up 2-0. And it was hot before we were up 3-0 actually, and it was hot before Game 4. It was like really hot and humid. So Scotty gives a team credit card to one of our equipment managers. I will not say his name. Trust me. If I said his name, everybody would know. But I'm not doing it to the guy.
All right.
So he goes to Brookstone. Those stores that sell gadgets, high-end gadgets. And Scotty says, go to Brookstone and buy portable air conditioners. Bring it to the room. We're going to surprise the guys before game 4.
Wow. That's a brilliant move.
Except one problem. He bought heaters instead of air conditioners. So he turned them on full blast. We get to the rink as a team. No, this is a true story. You ask anybody from the Bruins. We couldn't change in the dressing room. So the Bruins, to their credit, they brought in curtains, that hang on those metal.
I know exactly where you were.
We were in the hallway.
Corner there. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they put curtains in, and we were changing. They put all the chairs in the hallway.
Fans on the other side, eh?
Fans were on this other side of the curtains. It was like you would never do this today. It'd be too dangerous. And that's where we changed before game 4. And that magical Lemieux goal against Raymond Bourque?
Yeah.
That day was changing in the hallway. So the guy didn't buy the air conditioner. He bought 2 heaters, turned them up full blast.
Here's the question. Did he keep the receipt? Was he able to take them back?
No, the fact that we won and moved on was great.
You didn't care. You just left them there. You go.
I'll never forget. We were on the plane flying back after the game. I just remember Scotty's like, I can't believe this guy did this to me. Like, Scotty, nobody will know. It's okay. We got through it.
Did he keep his job?
Yeah.
Okay. Good on Scotty. Hey, everybody makes mistakes. All right. Well, I see one of our listeners over here, Joe, is saying he feels like betting $100 tonight. Should I go for Vancouver, Edmonton? Well, Joe, whatever you do, I am not giving you advice. I don't want to do that again. I led you guys astray the other night. But what you should do is, if you feel like that, you should go over to CBET right now and throw that C note down there, and you're going to get $300 Canadian back right away, refunded, win or lose, if you use the code SICK. That's SICK, like the song says, SICK. Over at CBET right now, you get $300 Canadian back. So win or lose that 100 there, Joe. And for anyone else who wants to bet on the games tonight or going forward in the playoffs, you want to go over to CBET. And of course, our other sponsor is TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting. TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering peace of mind. For no obligation, customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast at shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast at shiptcs.com. All right, let's get to our questions here on a Thursday afternoon. What do we got? Real Deal Prime wants to know the goaltender interference call. Do we anticipate a review or some sort of adjustment in the rule itself? Best of health. Thank you, Real Deal. I don't know. They've already messed with it so much. I don't know what they can do to solve it.
I think the competition committee and the board of governors are going to sit down and try to hash something out.
You do think it's coming?
I do think there's going to be some form of an adjustment. I do. I really do.
All right. We'll see. We'll see. Just don't go back to the toe in the crease.
No,
all right. Next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, who would you put in net for the Oilers tonight? Well, it's going to be Pickard, and that's who I would do. I think that's the right call.
I believe if you stick with the guy that's got the hot hand, and Pickard's got the hot hand right now.
Just like we were saying with Swayman.
Not a knock on Stuart Skinner. It's just Pickard won the last game. He's playing. That's just how it is.
Thing too, Pierre, we didn't bring it up, but it appears from what Rick Tocchet has been saying, he's not. I don't think he's playing tonight, but Thatcher Demko has had some drastic improvement in his health. So if this thing goes 7, you never know. I just wonder, Pierre, if you're in a game 7 and this kid Silas has got you there, do you shake the boat like that?
It's hard. That's why coaches.
You got to feel the rhythm of the room there. Yeah,
you got to really feel the rhythm. You really do.
If there's a guy that's good at it, it's Rick Tocchet. So I'm sure he'll make the right decision. All right, next question. Alex Ivanovsky, when you truly don't have a number one goaltender, I am in favor of splitting the games when necessary, like Edmonton is doing. I got mad, though, if Boston does it because there was no need. Totally agree, Alex.
We agree, Alex, but here's the one thing. I think Boston tried to make sure they wouldn't have to do that. They tried to trade Linus Ullmark.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't.
I think that was blown out of proportion from the media, Pierre, and I'm part of it. I'll own it. I think we all blew it out of proportion here.
But you agree they tried to move him.
Oh, yeah. I know they tried.
That's what I'm saying. They tried. That's my point to Alex, is they tried to move him and he wouldn't waive. So I think they were trying to get rid of that just for Alex so he doesn't get mad.
Yeah.
they were trying to move him so they wouldn't have to deal with this.
And they wouldn't have that distraction.
Yeah, it would not be there, for whatever reason. They weren't able to.
Before we move on, though, I want to give full credit to Linus Ullmark for how he's handled it.
Oh, my God.
You know what it's like here? Yeah, he's been pure class and supportive, so good on him. All right, next question.
Good for you to say that. Good. I'm happy you said that. Really good.
All right, next question. Rich H. The Canucks are way ahead of schedule. We aren't even supposed to be here. You're absolutely right, Rich. I just hope that all the Canucks fans out there, if they do lose this series, can understand that. They've done a great job getting to where they are. But that said, they're here, so why not? Why not win?
Well, they are ahead of schedule, but I think that's Jimmy Rutherford and Patrick Alvin, and they were really wise to bring in Rick. And you see the staff that Rick brought in. It's made a big difference. Adam, has done a really good job with the defense. Gonchar's done a really good job. I'm talking about Adam Foote. I shouldn't go that inside baseball, but Sergei Gonchar, Mike Gill, they've done it. The staff there's done a really good job. And obviously bringing in Rick has been huge. Abbotsford's had some really good stuff going on there. I don't know what they're going to do with Lekaramaki down the road, but he's a highly talented player. So they've got a lot going on. They've got some really good stuff going on in-house in Vancouver.
For sure. All right, next question. The Puck Bunnies. What city has the most need for a new rink? Well,
Ottawa.
They just left one.
No, I'm going to say Ottawa.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's not a look at it's the old Palladium, Canadian Tire Center. It actually, the sight lines are good. The building's good. It's antiquated. There hasn't been a lot done there in a long time. And I think the location's tough.
Yeah.
It always has been tough. I think if they move that building downtown, it'd be a different franchise. I really
Pierre,
do.
you've been living around Boston for a bit now, and you know what it's like trying to get down to Gillette Stadium when there's traffic.
Sure, yeah.
Whenever I would go out to Ottawa to cover games and I'd have to drive out there from downtown, that's exactly what I thought about. And the difference is when a team wins all the Super Bowls and is constantly in competition for a championship, fans can accept that ride and accept the location a lot better. Ottawa, unfortunately, hasn't had the consistency that the Patriots had. They need to get downtown. That's the bottom line.
Yep.
All right.
So that's one city I think needs a building.
And I think it would be great downtown because I think, as you have said, Pierre, on this show, I totally agree with you. I think Ottawa is one of the most underrated cities in North America. I love it.
I've lived there 2 different times in my life, and I've done a lot of games there, and I've coached a lot of games there. And it's a way underappreciated city. It really is.
The Heart and Crown has a hell of a Guinness there, I'll tell you that. All right, next question. Real Deal Prime. Question. Rick Bowness, Hall of Fame?
I'm not allowed to comment on anything Hall of Fame related because I'm on the selection committee, so I won't touch that.
I'm not going to right now. Ask me down the line. Maybe when Hall of Fame announcements come out, revisit that question, Real Deal Prime. I'd have to think about that one. That's a tough one. All right, next question. Alex Ivanovsky, do you think Rick Nash is ready to be the GM for Columbus, or do you think he needs a few more years and might step into a JD role later on? Great question.
Well, I don't know how he'd be ready to be the GM. He's got no managerial experience and no scouting experience. He just got it done playing. Now, some teams will just put a player in and hope that they turn out. But Rick's a really good person. Rick's a real loyal guy. He's had a magnificent playing career. I'll never forget the impact he had. And he's one of the guys that's kind of forgotten, the 2010 Olympic team. He was phenomenal on that team. Go watch the tape of the quarterfinal game against Russia and the impact that he had in that game, playing with Jonathan Taves, Mike Richards, and obviously himself. That line was phenomenal. So I'm a big Rick Nash guy. That being said, is he ready? I don't know. I don't think so because he's never done it.
Yeah.
Look, I said this to you about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I'm going to tell you again. I don't know if they've talked to Ray Shero or not. I have no idea. And I don't know if any teams besides the last team that talked to him I know of, it was San Jose a couple of years ago before Mike McGuire got the job. I'm just telling you, I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, this guy's done an amazing job.
Yeah. And I think Ray would be perfect in that role that Alex suggested there, maybe a president of hockey ops or what have you, however you want to term it, whatever title you want to give.
I just don't get it. I don't know. I would just say this. Go look at Pittsburgh when he got there and look at Pittsburgh when he left and go look at New Jersey when he got there. and go look at his jersey when he left. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Just go look and be fair. And you'll say, oh my gosh, I had no idea.
Yeah, he definitely deserves another job. I'll tell you that. All right, next question. Jason Logan. Excuse me. Pierre, do you hear anything about the goalie situation in Pittsburgh? Do you think they keep Alex? That's Nedeljkovic, by the way, for anyone wondering.
Hard question, fair question, hard question to answer because there's a lot of rumors, but I don't put a lot into rumors right now because it's kind of a dead period for trades. The one thing I would say is they've got a goaltender played in the American League, Bloomquist, who's really good, really good. So I don't know if they want to put him right into prime time. I don't know if they want to maybe give some cap space to themselves and maybe trade Tristan Jarry. I don't know. But I do think there's going to be something going on with the goaltending situation in Pittsburgh. Who the odd man out is, I don't know.
I agree. And I think you're onto something, Pierre. I think actually based on Nedeljkovic played really well during that push to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, he did.
You keep him, you bring the young kid in, you throw him in spot games and you ease him in. That could be a plan. We'll see. But something definitely will happen with that goaltending. Yep. I agree. All right, next question. Tyler Lussier, I apologize if I pronounced the name wrong. Pierre, I really respect your opinions on all aspects of the game. You're a legend. I was wondering, with the players the Habs have in the system, will they be bigger in, let's say, 5 years? I think they'll be bigger next year.
I do. And you know what, Tyler, first of all, thank you very much for those kind words. This is an amazing honor to be able to talk to our fans every day. And I really appreciate it every day. And I know Jimmy does as well. The Canes are going to be bigger. Jeff Gorton said it on this show. Kent Hughes said it on this show. I think Marty St. Louis has gone to them and said, we need to get bigger. If you start to see what everybody's talking about around the league now, you can't win with small teams. Everybody knows it now. It was in vogue for a while. Analytics made it more in vogue because those players, the smaller guys, are usually analytic darlings because of their skill level. People are realizing now they're useful, but you need to have more size. Ground and pound matters in the playoffs. So the answer is I do think they'll be bigger. And like Jimmy said, I think next year, Tyler, I do.
Yep. All right. Next question. Sean Myers, do you guys think it's fair for owners to expect a new arena to be subsidized up to even 80% or 90%?
I don't.
I don't.
And thank you for asking that question. I don't. There's too many other pressing issues in society. And if owning a pro sports team is a big deal. It's a huge deal. It's an amazing fraternity to be involved in. But it's not cheap. It's highly expensive. Yeah. And so you know what the rules of the game are when you get in. And you want to build a new building, you shouldn't be asking the taxpayers to subsidize you.
Completely agree. All right, next question. Mike, have you guys watched any of the IIHF World Championships? Slav is learning how to use his body. He has been unreal, also getting in other guys' faces. Mike, I apologize. I've just seen highlights, but I have seen highlights of him, and he looks good.
I've been trying to get ready for the draft, and I'm watching tons of different junior games. And congratulations to the London Knights. No disrespect meant to the Oshawa Generals, but congratulations to them. Congratulations to Moose Jaw, and congratulations to Drummondville. They're all going to the Memorial Cup in Saginaw. So I've been watching a lot of that. And Easton, for Leaf fans out there, Easton Cowan is the real deal. He's the real deal. And that's exciting. That's exciting for next year because I think he and Fraser Minton both have a legitimate opportunity to play there in Toronto next year, which is great for them. But no, I have only watched highlights like Jimmy. I have not watched any full games from the IIHF World Championships yet.
And by the way, Pierre is a big proponent of Slavkovsky. So just so you know, if you haven't been watching closely, like he should be his agent. So all right, next question. All right, Jeffrey B. Hey Pierre, who does Kasper Halttunen remind you of?
I don't know, and I will get to you on that. I don't know. I'll have to watch that.
Next question. State of Survival. Hey guys, if I want to do a career change and become a scout with no hockey experience, how would I start? Keep it going, guys. Podcast is amazing. Thank you very much, State of Survival. Pierre, I'll let you address this one.
You know, the one thing I'd say is I would try to get in touch with an agent. I would try to be a guy that's a bird dog for an agent and go and watch prep school. I don't know where you live, State of Survival, so I apologize. But if you're in Canada, I'd go watch midget games or bantam games. I wouldn't be afraid if I lived in Canada to contact a major junior team. If I lived in the United States, let's just say Massachusetts, I try to hook on with an agent and I try to say, hey, do you need a bird dog to find, young players, whether they be bantam players or it's as low as peewee now where you find them, or prep school players. So that's what I would do if you have no experience at all. And I can tell you, people are doing it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's working. People are getting jobs. It's more of a growth industry than a shrinking industry right now. And I can tell you one other thing. There will be at least 4 more new teams in the NHL. So that's hundreds of jobs, hundreds of jobs in the business. So that's exciting for young people coming up in the business. It really is.
All right. Next question. Mike, Pierre, it's been a while. Can you remind us Habs fans how amazing Fowler is?
He's really good. He's really good. I'm
Jacob Fowler updates.
weird. I don't know, Jimmy, when we start the show in October or November, I forget. But I remember one of the first shows I remember doing, and I'm telling you, this guy's I just come from watching him practice and going, holy mackerel, is this guy good? He's really good.
Swagger.
And then I went back a week later, Jimmy. I went back a week later and I was watching him. He was getting drilled in practice, really ripped apart. But he never got mad. He didn't break his stick on the boards. He didn't smash anything into the goal net. Just calm, cool. And I was like, okay, that's another thing I've seen in him. And then I watched him play against your alma mater in a game that BC should have lost. And he did not.
Afternoon game, right? That was a Sunday afternoon game.
Game. And I was there, and I can tell you this, Jimmy. When the money was on the line, when it was winning time, he shut the door. But before that, he struggled. He didn't have a game. But in the last 12 minutes of that game, when he had to play, he played.
Yeah, I remember talking to Carvey about that.
Yeah, I did. I talked to Carvey a lot about it.
Right? He said
the coach should have was Carvey.
Yeah. All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski, 2 players I wanted to get your opinion on: Mike Richards and Jonathan Toews. Why do you think their careers kind of crashed in the second half after such a great first half? I know 19 had COVID issues.
Well, let me talk about Mike Richards first. I'm a huge fan of Mike.
Glad you brought that name up.
Yeah, Mike was a tremendous player. He was part of the 03 draft, undersized player, highly cerebral, played for Kitchener Rangers. His coach was Pete DeBoer. I'm the biggest Mike Richards fan. He always treated me amazingly well. I was forever grateful for the way he played and the way he carried himself around me. I'm glad he won Stanley Cups in LA. They were close, obviously, in Philly in 2010. They weren't able to get over the hump against Chicago. But to me, I think lack of size and lack of foot speed hurt Mike, and injuries. Mike got hurt a lot. He did. And Johnny it was injuries more than anything else. And the team around him fell apart.
Yeah.
After 2015, go look at the roster of the Chicago Blackhawks. It fell apart. And so Kane and Taves and Keith and Seabrook, those 4 try to keep it going. You can't just have 4 guys. And then COVID kicked in. And
and Mike Richards too. He was such a gamer. He was one of those guys. I want him on my side in the playoffs. He may have his disappearing acts in the regular season, but man, he was a gamer. I remember him in that Philly-Boston series in 2010.
He could play wing, he could play center. He was an elite penalty killer. He was a power play guy. For a guy that could real fast, man, he made a difference in games. But he was character personified. He was old school character guy, Big fan, big fan.
Glad you brought him up there. All right. And by the way, State of Survival Pierre over there said he actually is based in France. So maybe he can scout players over there. Hey, there's been some good players coming from that country.
In France, I'm being serious. He should try to track down their agents. Now, obviously, hockey in France isn't huge, but their agents that deal with German hockey or they deal with the Italian league, because the Olympics are coming up in Italy. So there are more Italian Canadians than ever playing over there, or Americans that are playing there. So their agents that are representing these players, you can get job. Like I'm telling you,
Yeah.
just get in touch and try to find those guys. I'm so happy to hear that people in France are watching. That's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very
And by
much.
the way, if you want to know, for anyone out there who's interested in that, you can go to NHLPA.com and they have a list of their certified agents and usually their contact info. So that's there for you as a resource.
Yeah, that's great, Jimmy. Good advice. That's really good.
All right, next question. Jimmy and Pierre, do you think they need to speed up the replays challenge?
Yes. Yes.
There we go.
I totally, yes.
Yeah, enough. All right, next question. Tyler Lucier. Pierre, could you see this happening at the draft? Celebrini, Pierre, I'm going to murder his name. Levshunov, Saleyev,
yep,
Lindstrom, and Demidov falling to the Habs. My thinking is Chicago makes a decision the Habs had to make in 2023.
I could see that come. Now, I'm going to throw this out at you because it's one of the guys I've been talking about. I know people have kind of soured on him a bit, but he scores, and goal scoring is a premium. And so I think Yzerman's a guy that could get into that mix. Not saying he will, but he could, just because I know some people love him. I know some people don't love him as much.
Mm-hmm.
It's beauty is the eye of the beholder, right, Jimmy? And there's another kid, and I showed you him when Denver played. We were at the game together. Boyum, I think, could slide in too. So it's going to be interesting. And don't forget, there could be some trades too, because some teams may want to move up that value those young players because they need cap relief.
Yeah.
And some of those teams that are early in the draft, they need real NHL players. They don't have time.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be some machinations that happen that are going to be interesting to watch. Thanks for the question, Tyler.
Man, so many good defensemen up there too, Pierre, in this draft, huh?
It's a good draft for defense.
Yeah.
So just again, the draft changes a lot after about the 12th pick.
Yep.
I know all the guys that make their living doing the draft, they're going to pump. They always pump the draft. I don't blame them. I used to do the same thing. That's their job. I get it. Just telling you, realistically, it's not as good later on in the draft. It's just not.
All right. How many more we got left? Let's see. Let's do another. A to Z me. No question today, boys. Just appreciate the hockey talk. All series heading to game 6 is all we could ask for. Thank you. And we are too happy about that.
He's so good. I love hearing from him. Fantastic. I agree.
What a difference in the second round, Pierre, than the first round. I thought the first round was a little underwhelming. This has been great.
I think this speaks to the parity in the league.
Yeah.
I really do. I'm not going to call them what I want to call them on the air, but we got rid of some of the teams that probably shouldn't have made the playoffs this year.
Mm-hmm.
So they're out. They're gone. Some of them deserve to be in. Vegas should have been in. Yeah. They were dealt with injuries the whole year. Now they got beaten in game 7. Stuff happens.
It happens.
I get it. Who knew that Winnipeg was going to fall apart? I don't think anybody thought Winnipeg was going to fall apart. I knew. I mean, I told you. I didn't say it publicly. Edmonton was going to mash LA. You knew that was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But this round, the matchups have been pretty darn even.
It's been great. And seeing teams win on the road in game 5s, that's been a little something we don't see that often.
Tonight's a big one. That Ranger-Carolina game tonight, Jimmy, that precarious position the Rangers are in, they lose that game, and they could. Hey, look, Carolina, we talked about it. Carolina's a hard play, right? It's hard. They lose that game, I don't know about game 7.
I know, we were talking, Pierre, before about the momentum, and, it's hard to carry game to game, but when you're in any best of 7 series, whether it's baseball, hockey, basketball, when you're down 3-0 and you fight back to force a game 7, I don't care what anyone says, you have the momentum. And now it's switched, and all the pressures on that team not to go down in history as the next team to blow a 3-0 series lead.
Oh, especially
it's not a position you want to be in.
No.
So, I think not just to win the series right now, and not just to win this game, the Rangers want to win. They don't want to be in that position. That's the worst possible place to be. I remember I referenced this before on this show, and I know it's not hockey. But Pierre, was there anyone in the world when the Red Sox came back from down 3-0 to the Yankees that thought the Yankees were still going to win game 7? No, that was it. It was fait accompli. So Rangers got to win tonight. That's the bottom line. All right. That's been a great show. I want to thank Mark Spector for joining us there from Vancouver, covering the Oilers Canucks series. Always a pleasure to have Spec on. I want to thank the production crew in Montreal as well. And of course, all of you in the comments section and all our viewers and listeners out there. Thank you so much too for the compliments too and the praise. And we appreciate your support. Thanks to our sponsors, CBET and TCS. Pierre?
One thing, just for everybody out there putting out good vibes to the Dutchyshen family. Darren was an amazing guy. I'm just telling you, I was his partner for a long while. Special human being, and he really, as much fun as you saw him have on the air, he really was like that. A lot of guys are fake. He wasn't. He was a real deal. Everything you saw from him, that was Darren Dutchyshen. And to the entire Dutchyshen family, we're thinking of you. We're thinking of you.
All right, Pierre. And again, sorry for your loss and rest in peace, Dutch. This has been another edition of the Eye Test.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind.